So after the election that never seemed to end, Joe Biden has finally been named the 46th president of the United States. So right now, pull up a quick election map. It looks like Biden has 290 electoral votes, getting close to 300. I'm expecting Georgia may be called a little bit later this week, potentially. But, either way, Biden's probably going to get over 300 electoral votes, and the race is essentially over. And so the question I have is, what happens now? So the election, didn't exactly go how Democrats would have liked. Republicans will likely hold on to the Senate unless Georgia shocks the world twice, or really three times, by electing Ossoff and the other competitor there in the other Democratic Senate runoff race. He's probably going to have a Republican Senate, and we're going to be in the middle of what's been described as potentially the deadliest winter in American history. The pandemic is already the worst mass casualty event in modern history, and it's only November, right? And so when Biden takes office in January, things could be looking a lot worse than they are now. Also, it's important to remember that the oldest Supreme Court justice on the bench is 82 and was appointed by Democrat Bill Clinton. And so theoretically, if Biden does get a chance to nominate a justice of the Supreme Court, he's probably only going to get one. I believe the age of the other oldest justice is 72. And so that's going to limit the Democrats by not having a whole lot of Senate seats to make massive change. And so if the Supreme Court, if they're looking at getting rid of gay marriage, abortion rights, and the Affordable Care Act, Democrats really aren't going to be able to do much to stop them because they won't have a majority or a supermajority in the Senate, and they probably won't be able to pack the courts to add justices to try to balance it out there. So you don't have to worry about any socialism or anything like that if you're conservative and worried. Also, the potential problem that Biden's looking at is that Democrats have come together to beat Trump, right? I mean, that's got the progressive wing and the moderate wing together, all so they can take Trump down. And now that Trump is gone, what happened next? What's going to happen next, right? If you thought the debate around healthcare was crazy then, just wait a few months to see what happens when Biden eventually does take office. So when it comes to solving some of the biggest problems of our day, how is President Biden going to be able to overcome them with a divided government? What do you think, Kelly?
So, Peter, I lost you there as you went to the map, but really talking about this transition team. What's next for Joe Biden? What's next for Democrats? Obviously, for Joe Biden, the first thing we're going to be looking at is the transition team. We're going to be looking at how he handles the shift from the Trump administration to his own administration. And obviously already running into roadblocks, the GSA refusing to recognize that he is the president-elect at this point. It's a very small roadblock, but it does show that this administration, the Trump administration, is not particularly interested in working with the Biden's incoming administration when it comes to the handover. So we could see some potential problems there. But the bigger thing, of course, is going to be the coronavirus pandemic. How does Biden handle this? That's obviously going to be the number one challenge when he comes into office. He's already, packing a team with people to get started and really try to put together a team that will allow him to tackle this head on, because that's what people elected him on. They elected him on a return to normalcy. They elected him on handling the coronavirus pandemic from the federal level, not from the state level like we've seen in the Trump administration. So I think that's the big things for the Biden administration. Now, when it comes to the Democratic Party, of course, we've got the centrists, moderates, progressives. Biden has always been a moderate, but he has moved left as the party has moved left. He is for, especially for a politician who has been in politics as long as he has, decades and decades. He's fairly progressive. Um, so the big thing I think we're seeing right now is Chuck Schumer coming out and saying in Biden's first 100 days, he wants to see big moves. He wants to see the push for a $15 an hour minimum
Which would be
wage.
nice.
Yeah, it'd be terrific if we, could really pass something like that. We do a lot to uplift a lot of people here in America. And then another thing that would be massive, massive for Americans like you and I, uh, you know, $50,000 of student loan debt relief. That's something Chuck Schumer is saying that Biden can get done, even if he doesn't have the Senate's approval. So if Schumer is backing that, I mean, Schumer obviously is the Senate majority or minority leader, I should say, possibly the majority if the Democrats can win both of those Georgia runoffs. But obviously, he's the standard bearer for the party, one of those standard bearers. And so if he's okaying this deal, I think there's a good chance of that happening because I feel he's speaking as a mouthpiece for the party in this case.
Absolutely. And I think as an entrepreneur myself, one of the things people don't, it's kind of interesting now, but in the in the history of the country, entrepreneurship is at an all-time low. And you have to realize there's so many people with student loan debt out there that it really kind of stops you from doing things like starting a business or getting married, starting a family, and doing all these kind of things that really kind of stimulate the bedrock of the American economy. People don't have money to buy homes, people don't have money to get cars, and so that could be a huge benefit to the economy. I kind of had myself cracking up with it wasn't a funny thing, but I saw a report that 52% of millennials are now living at home because of the pandemic, and some older folks are like, "Oh, that's great that their parents could support them," and I'm like, "That's not great." This is not where millennials want to be at economically. I mean, people look at millennials as like kind of young, super young generation, but I'm 30. And a lot of millennials are kind of getting to that mid 30 range. And the fact that they haven't been able to make some of these big kind of, life changing kind of purchases or these big kind of things has really been a drag on the U.S. economy. And so I'm hoping that he can kind of change that going forward. But, we'll see, since the government is still going to be divided. And, I'm hoping that Biden's going to take more of a scientific approach to the pandemic. But that's what it seems like so far. But it also seems like Democrats are really lined up to stop anything that he might do there.
I seem to have lost you on audio again, but I'll just kind of move into the second point of things we wanted to talk about.
Hold on a second.
We talked about what's next for Biden. So talk about what's next for Trump. Obviously, the first answer might be jail and prison. That's a very real possibility. Do I think it'll happen? No. Could it happen? Absolutely. I mean, the man, has racked up quite a bit of legal chaos, and being in the presidency has brought him a lot of notoriety that has shined a light on some places I think he would rather have stayed in the dark. Whether or not we'll actually see a former American president go to jail remains to be seen. Of course, Nixon got pardoned by Ford and, managed to escape any kind of consequences there from the legal system. But whether Trump will be able to do the same, especially for issues that are not presidential in nature, remains to be seen. If, jail, prison, what have you, is not in the future for the outgoing president, I think that we'll look to see him on Fox. We'll look to see him on OAN. We'll look to see whether he creates his own network and manages to turn a profit from that. And I think we're going to see him in 2024, regardless, whether he's a Fox News contributor, the head of the new Trump TV network or in jail, I think he'll still be on that 2024 ballot. I don't think any of that is going to affect whether. I think if he's alive, he's running for 2024.
Probably.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics, the news, and all the stuff that's going on in our country?